Hey guys, Mike with Elite CDL. Today we're coming at you with the Class B Modernized pre-trip. Today we're going to be showing you how to conduct your Class B Modernized pre-trip. Here are some key points that you're going to remember throughout this video and as you study for your pre-trip. Remember, crack, damage, and loose is the acronym CDL. That will help you get through this because a lot of times you're trying to remember key phrases to describe these parts as you're going, because it's a lot of information when you're coming into this. Now, toward the end of your schooling, it'll be easy peasy, lemon squeezy. But going into this, you'll need some acronyms. Remember CDL, crack, damage, loose. That will help you out a ton. The other one is ABC, abrasion, bumps, and cuts. Abrasion, bumps, and cuts is typically used on anything rubber, such as a tire or a hose. That's what you're looking for, abrasion, bumps, or cuts. CDL, it'll cover a lot of things. As long as you're looking for that. Here at Elite CDL, we always use this pointer because part of your test instruction is that you need to touch or point each object that you're inspecting. So remember, if you have a stick like this, put it to use, touch, point to everything that you need to do so that that examiner knows what you're talking about and he knows you know what you're talking about. Now, come along with us. We're going to get you started on this Class B pre-trip. We're going to learn you folks how to do it. Come with us. All right, guys, so the first thing we're going to do once we get into our cab here is the examiner is going to be out in front of our truck here, and they're going to want to check the function of your lights. So with function of our lights, you should be familiar with. First thing that we're going to check will be our headlights. Turn our headlights on out front. The examiner will tell you either verbally or they'll give you a thumbs up or something, letting you know that that's working properly. Once they give you that, hit your high beams. They'll let you know that that's working properly. Left and your right turn signal individually, and they'll let you know that that's working. Then you also want to test your four ways. Once they let you know that that's working properly, they will go to the back and check your back lights. Again, your headlights are on, so they should see your running lights, give you the okay there. Check our left turn signal, right turn signal, and then we're going to check our four ways. Once we get thumbs up on all those different items, we're going to check our brake lights, make sure that those are working properly back there. Once we've done that, the examiner will come around. They will hop into our truck. They will give us instructions to start our in-cab inspection, and that's where we start our in-cab inspection. Once they're in here, first thing we're going to do, we're going to let them know that we got in with 3 points of contact, and we want to check out our seat belt, make sure there's no abrasion, bumps, or cuts. There's no tears. Everything's working properly. We want to check the function of the latch, make sure it latches. Unlatches fine, and we have our seat belt working in proper order. All right, once we've got our seat belt on, we've identified that we've got in with 3 points of contact. Now we're going to start the vehicle and start our air brake test. First step for our air brake test, we need to start this truck and find the governor cutoff. As I mentioned, we want to get our governor cut off in this first step of our GALE method. GALE would be our GALE method. Governor cutoff, this should happen between 120 and 140 PSI for the proper governor cutoff. Again, we're watching our air pressure here on our air gauges, your primary and your secondary, and we want to know exactly where that comes in. So you want to be paying attention outside, have your window either down or cracked so that you can hear that sound when it happens. Right now, we're sitting about 110. We're going to idle it up to about 1,000 RPMs just to let it build. Don't lower that so that you don't hurt the truck in any way. Sitting about 120 now. We're getting close. There was our governor cutoff. It happened just under 130 PSI. So that's a good governor cutoff. It's between 120 and 140. Now, our tanks are full on this, and so we're good to start our air brake leak down test. But to do that, we need to turn off our engine so that we're not still supplying air, because we need to be able to read this air leakage. So, engine goes off. Turn the key back on. It's important to turn that key back on, because you will need to see your gauges and what they're reading so that you can identify each part of this test. The second most important thing is that you charge your air brakes. All right, on a Class B, we're only going to push in the yellow knob for the tractor because this truck is equipped for a trailer, but in this instance, if you're running Class B, you're not going to have a trailer, you're just going to have the truck. So only the yellow brake for the parking brake for the truck. All right, we've hit governor cutoff. That's working well. Key is on so we can see that our gauges are working fine. We have our parking brake pressed in on our truck. Now we're going to start our applied pressure test. All right, first thing that we need to do, we need to apply pressure to our service brake firmly, not too hard, but firmly. Get a good, nice, firm press on it that you can hold for 1 minute without moving your foot so that you don't lose any air. Start that for countdown. We want to let them know in this that we do not want to lose more than 3 PSI because this is a straight vehicle, not a combination vehicle. You don't want to lose more than 3 PSI on this applied test for 1 minute. All right, our timer is up. We did not lose more than 3 PSI for Class B vehicle. That's a good test on our applied there, so we know that we don't have any leaks in our lines. The next thing that we're going to need to check in our Gale method is going to be the low air pressure warning. This low air pressure warning should kick on before 55 PSI to be a proper warning. So now we're going to fan this brake down, fan some air pressure. For watching and listening, there it is. We have our audible and our visual alarm that come on right about 60 PSI. So that makes for a good test. It's before 55. So that's a good test on our low air pressure warning. Now, E in our Gale method, we're going to be testing our emergency brake. In this instance, it's the tractor parking brake. Want to make sure that that pops out on its own between 20 and 45 PSI. Then start leaking that down. Again, we're watching the truck parking brake. See when it pops out. There it is. It popped out about 25 PSI. So that's between 20 and 45 PSI. So that means that our parking brake is doing its job. Now we're going to start our vehicle, build the air pressure back up so that we can start our end cab. All right. Now that we've completed our brake test successfully, now we're going to go into our end cab inspection. Our vehicle is now running. We've got our air pressure building, getting ready. Now we're going to start our end cab. I like to start on the exterior and work my way in and down. So I'm going to start with my mirrors. Make sure that my mirrors, they're not cracked, damaged, or loose. Both of them. Make sure both of them, the glass is clean and clear of any obstructions such as illegal stickers or anything such as dirt, mud, anything that would block our view. And we also, our keyword here on the mirrors, make sure it's adjusted to you, because you need those adjusted to you to do a good job at your driving and backing and all that good stuff. Once we've checked that, now we want to check our windshield. We want to make sure that our windshield is properly mounted and secured. There's no crack, damage, or loose here. We want to make sure that there's no obstructions in front of our glass and no illegal stickers. Once we've done that, then we're going to do our windshield wipers, which are connected to our windshield. We want to make sure that the wiper arms themselves, make sure they're not cracked, damaged, or loose, and that the windshield wipers themselves, the cranker, has no abrasion, bumps, or cuts, and they make good contact with the glass. We'll check that by turning it on. Once we've checked the contact on the glass, then we're going to check the washer fluid, windshield washer fluid. We've got windshield washer fluid. It does a good job of cleaning that dust and dirt off there. Once we've checked that, now we've checked all the exterior and we want to come inside the truck. I like to go to my indicators. Here, you're just looking at your dash to check your indicators. So I've got my left indicator, right indicator. I'm going to check my four ways. Now I'm going to check my headlights. Your dash should dim when you turn those on. Headlights are on. Now I'm going to check my brights. I see my bright symbols come on here, so I know that my indicators are working properly. Now that I've checked my indicators, I'm going to come on across the dash here. I'm going to check my defrost. So you want to turn this all the way to your heat. Once you have it all the way to the heat, you need to turn on your defrost because they want to know that you're not going to fog your cabin up and not be able to see. So we're going to check our defrost. Turn that fan up. Once you feel wind on you there, then you know your defrost is working. Now that we've checked our defrost, we need to check that our heat works. So we turn the heat to the cabin here. Here I turned it to our feet. We can feel that heat down there. Now since it's summer, I'm going to turn our AC back on. So we got our AC kicking again. You know, that's not part of your test, but weather determining, always try to make this as comfortable as you can for your examiner and yourselves because there's a lot of pressure in this test. So be mindful of that. All right. Now that I've checked all my indicators, I've checked my dash settings here. Now I'm going to check my horns. I got my city horn and I got my air horn. Both of those are working properly. Now that I've got all the things on my dash, I'm going to be checking my emergency equipment. First part of your emergency equipment is your fire extinguisher. My fire extinguisher is mounted here on the floor. I want to make sure it's properly mounted and secured. You want to make sure that the handle is secured with a pin so that it don't go off and you lose charge. Our handle secured with a pin, and we want to check our gauge and make sure that it's fully charged. Once we've checked our fire extinguisher for properly mounted, secured, fully charged, and it's secured with the pin and the handle. Now we're going to check our reflective triangles. Our reflective triangles, they're in the bunk back there. We need to have 3 of them, and they should be contained in a red box, but we need 3 of those reflective triangles. Lastly, we need to check that we have spare fuses. We have spare fuses over here in our door. You need to make sure that you have those. That's part of your safety equipment. That's your 3 safety equipment. Now that you checked the exterior, all of your glass, you've checked all of your indicators, you've checked your heat and your defrost, we've checked our horns and our emergency equipment. Now it's come time where we're going to do a tug test against our brakes. Class B, we're just going to check our tractor brake here, make sure that it's set. We're going to put it into drive, both hands on the wheel, give it a little fuel. All right, we pulled against it. We didn't go anywhere. That means that our tractor parking brake works well. All right, now we're going to put it into drive and we're going to check our service brake. Press in your yellow knob here. Make sure that's in. We got it in drive. Now we're going to check our service brake. What I'm looking for here is to make sure that it doesn't turn left or right, which would indicate we have a brake out of adjustment or something's wrong with our suspension. All right, we're going to pull forward here about 5 miles per hour. Hands loosely on the wheel. Get up about 5 miles per hour. Get the brake. Our wheel did not pull left or right. So that indicates that our service brake is in good working order. Now we're going to set our brake. Put it in neutral. That completes our in-cab inspection. All right, guys. Out here in the front of our vehicle. Now that we've completed our in-cab, we're going to be out here on the front of the vehicle. We're checking the exterior of the vehicle here. Remember your key terms: crack, damage, loose for your CDL. Also remember abrasion, bumps and cuts, ABC. All right, first thing that we're going to check, remember we're going to do an overview first, right? We're going to look, make sure that the truck is not leaning left or right. That would indicate spring damage or a low tire or a load is shifted. Our truck is not leaning left or right. Next, we're going to check for puddles. Look underneath your vehicle, make sure you don't see any puddles. That would indicate that you're leaking some type of fluid or fuel, or there's some sort of issue. So always check that. That's a good thing to check when you're coming up. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to be checking our lenses, lamps, and reflectors. Start out with your headlights. Make sure that our headlight lens is not cracked, it's not damaged, it's not loose. We're going to make sure that our indicator in here, which is amber, is the proper color. It's not cracked, damaged, or loose. Same thing on this side. Make sure that our headlight here is not cracked, damaged, or loose. It's the proper color. Our turn signal inside, proper color, which is amber, and it's not cracked, damaged, or loose. From there, we're going to check our clearance lights. Clearance lights are always up top. This is our truck clearance lights. They're with proper color, which is amber. Make sure that all of those are not cracked, damaged, or loose. They're properly mounted and secured. All right, now that we've done our overview, we're going to start under the hood. The first thing we're check under our hood is our 3 fluids. Our first fluid on this particular truck is on the passenger side, so we're starting over here on the passenger side. We have our coolant. We want to make sure that the reservoir itself is not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. We don't see any leaks anywhere. Second thing we want to check is the level. We want to make sure it's between the minimum and the full, so it's at the proper level. We also want to check the cap. Make sure that the cap is on secure, it's on tight, and it's not cracked, damaged, or loose. Then we want to check our hoses and our clamps. Our hose, remember, abrasion bumps or cuts, A, B, and C. It don't have any abrasion bumps or cuts. It's in good condition. Our clamps, they're not cracked, damaged, or loose. They're not broken. Those are good to go. They're seated on there well. Now we're going to go to the driver's side. All right, remember, we're still on our 3 fluids. That's the first thing that we need to check. We checked our coolant on the passenger side. We're over here on the driver's side. We have 2 more of our engine fluids to check. First thing we're going to check on this side, which would be our second fluid, would be our engine oil. Our engine oil dipstick, we need to check the condition. It's not cracked, damaged, or loose. It's not leaking. You will need to explain to the examiner how you would check your engine oil. We don't need to pull it, but you do need to understand how to check it. The way I would check it, I would pull it out, wipe it clean, reinsert it, pull it back out, and I would need to make sure that the engine level, oil level, is between the add and the full. Once we've confirmed that, we will check our oil fill tube cap. Make sure that the tube cap is not cracked, damaged, or loose. It's not broken. It's not leaking anyway. Check the tube itself. Make sure it's not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. Now that we've completed our oil, it brings to us our third fluid. That would be our power steering fluid. Your power steering fluid, you need to make sure that the reservoir is not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. Check the hoses. They're not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. Clamps are on well. They're not leaking. We want to check the fluid level. Make sure it's between add and full at proper level. And we want to check the cap. Make sure the cap is on tight. It's not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. From there, that's going to take us to our steering. Your steering, we need to check our steering column. Make sure it's not cracked, damaged, loose. It doesn't have too much play, which would be excessive play, more than 10 degrees. Once you've checked your steering column, you want to check your power steering gearbox. Make sure our power steering gearbox is mounted and secured properly to the frame. You want to make sure that your power steering gearbox is not leaking. It can leak around these seals. Want to check and make sure that it's not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking there. Then we're going to go to our 3-piece steering system. Our 3-piece steering system, we need to make sure that none of those are cracked, damaged, or loose. None of them have any obvious damage that you can see. And we want to check and make sure that these castle nuts and cotter pins, make sure it secures every part of this. That is a particular part that you need to mention, castle nuts and cotter pins on each of these parts. Once we've checked that completes our steering. We need to go to our suspension. Our suspension here, you want to check your leaf springs. Make sure none of those are cracked, damaged, or loose. None of them are shifted. None of them are missing. You want to check your U-bolts, which mount your springs to your axle. U-bolts are not cracked, damaged, or loose. They're in proper working order. Our bump stop, which helps secure the U-bolts and the leaf springs. It's not overly worn. It's not cracked, damaged, or loose. Then we're going to check our spring hangers on each end of the leaf springs here. Make sure those are not cracked, damaged, or loose. They're working properly. Then we want to check our shock absorber. Make sure it's not cracked, damaged, or loose, or leaking. Because it has hydraulic fluid in it, it can leak. So we want to check and make sure it's not leaking. Once we've checked that, that would complete our suspension here. Now when you come up here, we're starting on our brakes. We want to check our brake lines. Make sure that our brake air line, it has no abrasion bumps or cuts. It's not leaking anyway. Our wire, ABS wire, it's not cracked, damaged, or loose. It's not broken anywhere. It's working well. Now before you go on, since you're checking the hose here, remember to move up here and check your hoses up here. You want to do an overview of these air hoses as well. These air hoses, you need to make sure none of those are cracked, damaged, or loose. None of them, you don't hear any leaks and you don't see any signs of leaks. Also in your engine compartment, make sure that you don't see any signs of leaks and all these fuel and oil hoses up here. Now that you've done an overview of that, you're clear to go to your brakes. We're going to go down to our brakes here. We're going to check our brake drum. Our brake drum, make sure it's not cracked, damaged, or loose. There's no overworn in here. Then we're going to check our brake shoes. Make sure they're not cracked, damaged, or loose. They're free of any debris. You want to make sure there's no contaminants between the shoes or the drum that would cause problem braking. Make sure that you mention there's no brake contaminants and that your brake pads are more than 1/4 inch of pad. Now that you've completed your brakes, you're welcome to do an overview here. I like to look at it and remember, I've done my fluids, I've done my steering, I've done my suspension, I've done an overview of my hoses, I've come over to my brakes, I've covered everything on my brakes. Now that brings me to my tire. My tire, since it's a steer tire, we want to make sure that it has at least 4/32 of tread on our steer tire on all treads. We want to make sure that it's a matching set with the other side as well. It needs to be evenly worn. It doesn't need to have any bumps on it. It doesn't need to be faded on one side or the other because that will cause steering issues. And like I said, it needs to match the other side. Now, since you've checked the top of the tire, check both sides. No abrasion bumps or cuts. No bulges in it. Now we want to make sure that it has proper contact with our rim here, and you don't see or hear any leaks. From there, we're going to check our tire rim, make sure that the rim itself is not cracked, damaged, or loose, no illegal welds, and we don't see any damage there. We're going to check our lug nuts, make sure all of those are in place and present. None of those are loose. How we would see loose is we would see rust trails, or we would see shiny threads here that would indicate that we're getting loose somewheres. Then we're going to check our valve stem. Valve stem, it should have a cap. It should be on tight. Our valve stem itself shouldn't be damaged, not cracked, damaged, or loose. All right, here's where you'll need to check your air pressure. Make sure it's at least 100 psi or to manufacturer's specifications with a tire pressure gauge. All right, now that we've gotten under the hood, we need to check. From here, we're going to check our mirrors. Our mirrors need to be properly mounted and secured. We're going to check the glass, make sure it's not cracked, damaged, or loose, no illegal stickers, and make sure that the glass is clean and clear of any debris. We'll check our reflector here, make sure it's not cracked, damaged, or loose. It's proper color. Since it's on the side of the truck, it's going to be amber. All right, now we're going to check our battery box. We don't have to pull that out on the test, but you do need to know what you need to check. So what we're going to check here is you would look at your batteries, make sure none of your batteries are cracked, damaged, or loose. Make sure that all of your connections are tight, they're secure, there's no corrosion, none of the wires look like they're corroded or burnt in any sort of way of damaged. Once you've checked the batteries, now we're going to go to our tanks. First tank we're going to check here that comes up would be our DEF tank. This is our DEF fluid. We want to make sure that the cap is securely in place here. It's tight. It's not broken. It's not cracked, damaged, or loose. Then, if I could see behind this skirt here, I would check and make sure the tank itself is not cracked, damaged, or loose, and make sure it's not leaking. Now that I've checked my DEF tank, now I want to slide over here to my fuel tank. My fuel tank, I want to look at it, make sure it's not cracked, damaged, or loose, or leaking. You want to look at our fuel cap, make sure that the cap's in place, it's not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. Now you don't have to take this off on your test, but I am going to show you here just so you see. This is your safety chain. It should have your safety chain there because you don't want to go losing your fuel tank. That can cost, number one, money and safety. In here is a rubber gasket. You need to check, make sure that it's not abrasion bumps or cuts, it's not damaged, so that it makes a good seal to your tank. Again, you don't have to take that off on your test. I want you to see it so you see what it looks like. Our tank straps, they're not cracked, damaged, or loose. They're properly holding our tank on. Under here, we're going to check our fuel tank hoses. Our hoses coming from the tank, they're not cracked, damaged, or loose, no abrasion bumps or cuts. We're looking around the connections for any leaks. We don't see any leaks, so we're good to go there. Now that you checked your fuel tank, now we will proceed to the back. As you go to the back, it's always good to check your rear tires. Those need to have at least 2 30-seconds of tread back here. Again, on the front, the steer tires are 4 30-seconds. Anything that is not a steer tire needs to be at least 2 30-seconds of tread depth. Now that we're to the rear of the truck, we need to be checking our tail lights here. Make sure those are not cracked, damaged, or loose. They're the proper color, and none of them are broken. That'll be your Class B pre-trip on the Modernized method. Now, if you have any questions, if you need some clarification on something, feel free to leave it in the comments. Let us know. We'll be glad to answer that. And we look forward to seeing you at Elite CDL.